So hi everyone and welcome to this session. So today we are going to talk about JBIMS. We'll be covering the details of the admission process. What are the things that the panel is looking for when they're interviewing students? And of course, we have two students of JBMS MSc Finance with us, Nihal and Anuja, and they are going to be answering a lot of questions that you have. So let's get started with the session. So I'm going to first start with Anuja. Anuja, if you can introduce yourself and tell us about your background and how your journey has been so far.
Sure, sir. Hello and good morning, everyone. My name is Anuja Pawar. I completed my BMS from Suriname College of Commerce and Economics with my core elective being finance. I'm a fresher and I have no prior work experience. My CET score was 97. Extracurricular was pretty basic, so to speak. And but you have to make sure, I made sure that my hands were in all sectors and I knew pretty much about everything before I took the next leap.
Okay, welcome to the session.
Thank you.
Nihal, if you can start with your introduction.
Thank you, sir, for the introduction. So, hello everyone. I am Nihal Pandey, and so I am a computer engineer from Lokmanya Tilak College of Engineering. I graduated in 2019 with a CGPA of around 8. And post that, I worked with TCS for 2.5 years as a developer. So if you talk about the extracurricular part, I was a very active student during my college. I was the president of my department. I was part of the student council. I was part of the football team. And I, as Anuja said, I got my hands into everything possible. So I was part of the cultural team, technical team, all those teams. I did all those things. And the main highlight of my college engineering was I was part of the robotics team, and we were we participated in ABU Robocon competition. So this all gave a very holistic view to me when I was in my engineering. But there was this thing that I always wanted to do was to get into management, which I realized when I was I was working with TCS for 2.5 years. And I realized that there was a much better role out there for me, and this is not it. So that is when I started my preparations. So I actually prepared with IMS in 2020 first. And at that point, I couldn't crack the college that I wanted to get in. Then I went for GRE studies the next year. And then I realized that, okay, it's a very easy way out. And if I don't pursue my dream at this moment, it wouldn't be possible again. So I came back to preparing for CAT last year. And yes, that is how I cracked CET. It was a mist of all this CAT preparations because CET, as you know, last year it happened around August. And during that time, I was preparing for my CAT. So it was amidst all that thing. But yeah, I got a good score there, around 99.2 percentile, and was able to crack. Yeah. So that is about it. And if talking about any finance related experience, I don't have a lot of it. But yes, I was always curious about and always had this thing if I wanted to do an MBA or anything, so it would be related to finance. So this is how I ended it here.
Yeah, good to know. Thanks, Nihal. So what we're going to do now is let's first talk about the admission process, right? So that all of you are familiar with how the process works. And then we'll get into the details of how Nihal's interview experience was, how he prepared, and how Anuja prepared, and what sort of questions did they get in the interview. So speaking of the admission process for MSc Finance, understand that if you have taken CAT 22 or if you have taken CET 23, then you are eligible to apply for MSc Finance. The last date to register is August 3rd. So you have to complete your application prior to that. The cost of application is 1,500 rupees. Now, alongside this, if there's somebody who has appeared for UPSC, then also you are eligible to apply, and they've given the details of that. You can find all this information on the institute website. Now, in terms of the initial filter which is applied for profile evaluation, understand that you need to clear the percentile that is mentioned on screen right now. So let's say if you're applying with your CAT 22 score, then if you're a general category student, you need to have a minimum of 95 percentile. And for reserved and PH, that requirement is 75 percentile. If you have taken CET 23, then for general, you need to have a 97 percentile, a 90 percentile for reserved, and if you're a PH candidate, then 85 percentile. Now, alongside this, to be considered for the profile evaluation, you also need to clear the past academic record requirement that is there, right? So let's go through that requirement as well. So when it comes to the 10th standard or SSC or equivalent, for general candidates at 60%. So in both 10th and 12th, you need to have 60%. And for reserved students, that is 55% in both 10th and 12th. In addition to this, the candidate should have opted for mathematics at the higher secondary level or at the level of the first year of the degree course, right? So those are the minimum eligibility requirements that you have, okay? Once you have this, then and you submit your application, then the college is going to shortlist you, right? So approximately 400 candidates will be called. They definitely will be getting a lot more applications than this, and it is not possible to shortlist everyone, right? So based on the criteria that they have, they're going to shortlist candidates, and approximately 400 candidates will be called for the in-person assessment that is going to happen. In terms of in-person assessment, they have mentioned it is going to be group activity, personal interview, and the writing aptitude test. Of course, when we talk to Nihal and Anuja, we'll understand more about how it was last year, and I'm sure that is going to help all of you. And then finally, when it comes to selecting students, this is the weightage, and this is the criteria that they're going to have. So you look at the application rating. So that score is something that they'll calculate out of 100. And the weightage within that is going to be 60% for the CAT or the CET or the UPSC score that they have. Then the 10th, 12th, and the bachelor's degree, so which is your past academic record. Your extracurriculars and WorkX, so they're clubbed together. If you have WorkX, then that will also be considered. If you don't have that, as Anuja mentioned that she didn't have any work experience, so her extracurriculars mattered in that sort of a situation, right? So that is what they will look at. And then the diversity bit, which is 5%. Once they have that score of 100, finally, of course, that is going to get scaled down to 60. So as you can see in the extreme right column, 0.6 of AR. And the in-person assessment, that is also out of 100. That is group activity and the interview and the VAT, so 20, 60, 20. You can clearly see that the weightage of interview is very huge. So 60% out of that IPA that is there. And finally, that gets scaled down to 40%, right? So a cumulative score is what they will arrive at, and basis that a final selection list will be announced. So that is how it is going to be. And the minimum total score required, right, to be considered for admission is also something that they have mentioned. 50 for general category and 45 for the reserve category. So when it comes to the reservation is applicable only to Maharashtra state students, and the percentages of seats that are reserved is mentioned in this document. I'm sure all of you have gone through it, but in case you haven't, you can simply visit JBIMS website, and on the home page itself, you will be able to locate this document. Okay, so that's about the admission process. It's a very simple thing to understand, but of course, there are a lot of nuances. The college is looking at candidates who are really passionate about finance and are able to justify that choice in the interview. So what we'll now do is we'll go to Nihal and Anuja and talk about different things. We'll of course talk about the experience in college. Okay, so I'm just going to stop share now, and we'll have a discussion on how your admission journey was and so on. Okay, so let's start with Anuja. So Anuja, you mentioned that you come from you have a relevant background, right? So you studied finance, you studied accounts and everything. So when did you decide that I want to apply to MSc Finance, and how was the entire process for you in terms of your interview and your group exercise and the VAT that was there?
Okay, so around my last semester of my graduation, it occurred to me that finance is something that I extremely relate with intrinsically. It is my calling. And it became even more important for me to look for a course that is so structured and specialized in something where I'm able to learn about the subject since day one and do not have to wait for another year to opt for a specialization. That's a luxury you have when you for sure know that this subject or this domain is your calling, wherein you get to study it from day one. So that was something that I was absolutely clear on. Having been studying finance for 3 years, it became a natural instinct for me to opt for a course on similar lines. And this is the best in the country. So when I understood that, okay, this is what I want to do, I did my research on how I can get into it. So CET was the only exam I prepared for, and I did not opt for any classes as such. and I used the freely available resources to the best of my abilities. And in terms of my score, I scored a 97 percentile, after which I got a call from the institute, and therein came the in-person assessment. All the three parts of the in-person assessment, your GD, your PI, and VAT, were conducted on the same day through various time slots. First, you go through your written application test, your written aptitude test, wherein they give you a generic topic. It could be something related to current affairs, or it could be something abstract as well. What matters is that within 10 minutes, you're able to write at least 300 words, and just not about anything, but it has to be to the point, it has to be crisp, and it has to be in a way that you are able to convey your point across. You're able to convey what you understand about the topic across in 10 sharp minutes. That's what they test. So it is quite possible that you'll not be able to write the complete page, because it's just 10 minutes. You take a couple of minutes to process the topic, you take a couple of minutes to accumulate your thoughts, and that takes time. But what matters is, how do you manage your pressure in those 10 minutes? Are you succumbing to the pressure? Are you sweating? Are your hands trembling? Or are you like, no, hold on, I can do this? That's what those 10 minutes test you. Moving on, then comes your personal interview. In personal interview, my personal interview went pretty smooth. They did not, in fact, ask me a single finance related question, but they did question me about my CV a lot. What was I doing? Where was I doing all these years? What's my calling is? They questioned me in terms of who am I as a person. And that gave me an insight that when you're sitting for an interview, it does not matter what kind of technical knowledge you have. You might be the most knowledgeable person in the room, but are you able to hold a conversation? That's what matters. When there are very established, sharp panelists in front of you, they are questioning you, are you able to hold a conversation with them? It cannot be choreographed. Yes, you have to be well prepared, but it cannot be scripted to the point that it almost feel inhuman. You understand the point that I'm trying to make? It has to be free flowing, and it has to be 100% honest.
Yeah. Did you have any question that stumped you? Something, do you remember any question that was asked to you wherein you had to really think and answer it?
I actually, when I think about it now, after so many months have passed, I think my interview went pretty smooth, much to my pleasant surprise. They did not catch me off guard. There were a lot of personal questions for sure, because they were interested in the kind of person I am. And they gave me an open forum where they asked me that, Anuja, you tell us anything that you know about finance. So I went through the recent articles. I read newspapers a lot during the time, because it helps you when you have factual information to back up your claims. It always helps to emphasize on the point that you're trying to make, correct? So, but no, as such, I did not come across a question that caught me off guard. And another thing I understood is that the way you introduce yourself, the first 5 seconds, the first 5 minutes of your interview sets the tone for the rest of the interview. If you're able to control the room in the most elegant, graceful manner, you'll be able to navigate the further interview pretty smoothly. And moving on to GD, my GD was a bit tricky. I'll be honest about it, because we have around, say, 10 members in the room. And either you start the GD, which did not happen with me. I could not take the lead. Or you have a lot of points to make. Again, did not happen with me. I spoke for about 3 to 4 times. But what I did was, I knew that I do not have much content to give to the room. But whenever the conversation directed off guard, off the road, completely off track, I made a point to bring the group back together. I made a point to make sure that all members of the team are included, not taking the place of the coordinator, but making sure that the conversation is on the line. And whenever I can give inputs, whenever there's a steady quietness in the room, I have to take the lead. So you have to be alert that way, knowing when to speak, when to hold back, and when to urge others to speak. So that's how it has been for me.
Okay, nice. Let's move to Nihal. Nihal, how was your experience preparing for the interview, and how the entire process went for you?
So I started off like we held a mock interview at IMS. And that actually helped me a lot because while preparing for it, it actually gave us an insight of how it could be while. So we held a mock interview where we were like interacting with all the people who joined in that day. So it gave a good understanding. But what I realized is, as Anuja, she really put it very, very well. So it's actually what happened. So I will just give you like idea about how it went for me. So we were like we had all the 3 rounds on the same day, and it started off with the test. And the topics for this written test usually are based on the recent news. So and recent news and very generic finance related stuff. So like I got a topic called financial literacy. So how would you increase it in India? And a topic which is very generic but yet focused on the financial part. So that was what it was. So I was able to write on it. So I had read about it. So the most important thing for the preparation of GD, VAT, and PI is to read newspaper regularly. That is the only source I feel that could like keep you afloat with all the current current news that is around, and will also give you like insights about how to like come about with a solution or something if someone asks you about it. Then moving on to the GD round. So again, the topics were very relevant. Like we got 2 topics. One was moonlighting, which was a very like hot topic at that point, where if it is a good thing or not. And there was another topic called as CBDC, the new digital currency that government of India recently launched. So the fun fact about that was the same day I read Economic Times, and the first article on the first page was about CBDC. And I was able to convince everyone on the panel that day, okay, let's go about for CBDC because it's a more relevant topic. And since we are here for a financial course, but it doesn't matter. You could have gone with a moonlighting topic and yet you could have given your insights. So as Anuja well put it, like you have like 10-15 minutes of round, and it doesn't matter how much you speak at that point. It matters what relevant points you present at it. And then moving on to the PI round. So it was again a very, very like light-hearted, yet it was intense because the whole focus is about you. It's not about how much you know about finance or how much you know about certain things. It is about what you have done till now and what have your learnings been about. So one question that stands out from my PI experience was that they asked me about, could you tell me about a point where you failed and how did you come out of it? So like since I have work experience, so I was able to like have some experience in that field, and I was able to give them instant from my life, and they were like they heard it and they were like they tried to draw their conclusion from it. But apart from that, they expect you to know the basics like what's the CRR or SLR or the current repo rate for that matter. What is repo rate? Like these basic stuff they would expect you to know because you are there for your like a master's in finance interview. So this has been the whole experience for the GD, VAT, and PI.
Okay. And did you face any particular difficulty convincing the panel in terms of move from a technical domain to finance? Because you said you're an engineer, wherein during engineering, you of course don't have any exposure to finance unless you are somebody who is interested, maybe following capital markets and so on.
Yeah.
So how did you justify?
So the only justification that I was able to give is that I am very much interested, keen to learn this thing. And I've been interested, like I've been following the markets, been reading the newspaper for so long, and then following certain stocks or following certain trading practices, and then looking at how a company works, then the cash flow. So these things could like, you don't have to actually have experience in this thing. You just need to have that interest in this thing, I would say. So you need to be interested in actually learning. So they would actually prefer a person who has experience in finance but is not interested, rather than a person who is interested in finance, who's not in, who has not had any prior experience but is interested in finance. So that is, I think that is what stood out for me, like my passion and my drive for things that I take up till in my life. So I was in that way I was able to convince them that I'm a good fit for one of the 44 people to be selected.
Okay. Anuja, I have a question. So when you look at your batchmates, and of course, Nihal, you can also add to this. When you look at your batchmates, right, what sort of a diversity mix do you have? So in terms of backgrounds, as you said, you're an engineer, Anuja is coming from commerce and finance background, right? So what sort of diversity is there? Even if you can add a little bit on the gender diversity that is there, right? So maybe Anuja can start and then Nihal can add to it.
In terms of diversity, I believe that every out of each one of us, out of the entire class, is coming from varied professional backgrounds, some with excellent work experiences, some with excellent extracurricular, some mediocre, some average in terms of academics, but has some sort of uniqueness in terms of the extracurricular activities that they take or have taken a couple of degrees. So when we say diversity, it does not stop at professional diversity. It branches out to the kind of jobs we've done, the kind of degrees we've taken, the kind of extracurricular activities we've been in, and also the kind of mindset that we hold. And I think when I'm in a class, when I'm in the class with my peers, I I am being transformed. My outlook on life is being transformed. I do not come to the class with a preconceived notion. So when you say diversity, it holds a very different meaning for me personally, as a student and as a professional in making. If I'm in a class or if with a group of people who are able to change my mindset, my paradigm about something with the kind of experiences, professional or otherwise, that they bring to the table, I believe that that group is diverse. And after spending considerable time here, I can say that each of us, the entire 40, a class of 40, we have mindsets and belief systems that help us grow, even if it is in the most benign, indirect manner. So when you say diversity, for me, if I'm sitting with someone, there's a conversation, and they're able to change my mind about something, I'll say that I've been in a diverse environment. So when we look at it from that perspective, it is immense. It is immense. And each day is a new day for me here. I come with a clean slate, and the diversity and the effects of diversity keep adding on to me. And there's a complete transformation in how I look at things. That's what diversity means to me.
Nihal, do you want to add to that?
So, as well put by Anuja, diversity is not just what different people come in, but it's what you are taking from it. But to mention the diversity that we have, the class has been very diverse. Though there are majorly like engineers, but it's not like more than 50%. So we have but the engineering diversity is amazing right now, because we have people coming from civil engineering. We have planning engineering people coming in who have worked in like public domain for like 6 years. There are people from law background, CS background, CFAs. So it's a very diverse field, and you get to interact with a lot of people who have very different view about how they picked up finance, and even with people who have been working in finance, how they came about to this course. So it gives a very holistic view to the class, and you get to like interact with every kind of like different streams of people who have different thoughts. So in that sense, everyone is very diverse in that class. And apart from that, you also get to interact with everyone in the college, be it HR department or the MMS department. So you do get to interact with a lot of people, and overall, it's a very diverse class.
Okay. What's your typical day like? So college timings and what other activities happen on campus apart from the college lectures that you have?
My typical day at JBIMS looks like sometimes there's a class at 9 a.m. in the morning, sometimes it's at 12, sometimes it's at 2, which teaches you that you have to be on your toes, you have to be alert and ready to be in the class whenever it is that you have a schedule. You cannot make excuses to learn. If there's a class at 2, you be here at 2, and you come here well prepped so that you can absorb as much as you can from amazing faculty, correct? So in terms of my day, it's pretty erratic that way. Whenever the schedule comes, off we go, off to learn. And on an average, it ends sometimes at 5, 6, and 9. That's how the trend has been since the last couple of semesters. In terms of extracurricular activities, we have been having diverse set of guest lectures wherein we are inviting people from all sectors, mainly finance, but even within finance, there's a lot of diversity, and we're making sure that we have the correct amount of exposure and interaction with all the fields. So that's something that I've been looking up for a couple of weeks. Yeah. Nihal, tell me.
So yes, Anuja did put it well. So it's a very erratic schedule, because the main feature of JBIMS I would like to mention is that the faculty. So the faculty is not your regular faculty that you get to interact. They are not educationalists, maybe I would mean, but they are industrialists. Basically, they come with a very rich experience, about like 30, 40 years of experience. They are CAs, they are like, they have been the CEO of the top companies like Kotak Securities, and they come to teach us. So it's very difficult to manage. So as Anuja said, it could start at 9, it could end up at 9 in the night. And we have the last lecture could happen at around 6:30, 7 o'clock, and it goes up to 9. So a day could be like more than 12 hours. We'd be sitting in the college. And so this is about the educational, like curricular part. But apart from that, the assignments. We get an assignment at any moment. We would get an assignment at 12 at the night, and we would have to submit it in the morning before 8, before reaching the college. So it is something that we have to take it up as a challenge for us. Apart from that, the extracurricular part, talking about it. So JBIMS is a very student-driven college. So there is very limited faculty intervention, to say. So there are departments like PR department, Alcom department, the placement department. Then there is the editorial department. Then so all these committees are like are 5 to 6 people, and they drive the college. So everything you see about, like we would be going out for like CSR activities, we would be taking up like guest lectures, we would be taking up like other activities online. So this has all been organized by the students, and yeah, it has been amazing so far, and looking forward to having more of it at the campus.
Okay. And a question which is often asked, right? So when students are thinking of MSc Finance, some of them are on the verge of deciding whether to do finance or not. Some of them might be a little confused at this point of time. Maybe they started with the aspiration that I want to do MBA, right? So a 2-year full-time course which will teach me management education. What would your advice be to these students? Because I have not completely decided I want to do finance. I'm on the fringe. Maybe finance, maybe marketing, or maybe finance and operations. I'm a bit confused. So when they're taking that call, that because MSc Finance, it's a committed finance course, right? It's not a typical management education or an MBA program. What sort of advice would you have to such students who are considering applying and have not yet made up their mind?
My advice to such students would be, it's impossible to know for sure what you want to do, but there's a calling. And you have to recognize that while you have the time to do that. Do your research, read about things. If you like it, you like it. You don't like it, you don't like it. But before you enroll into a program, have a basic instinct that, okay, maybe there are fair chances, there's fair probability that this is what I'll turn out to be. This is what my specialization would be, and I do fairly good at it. So it's important to have a basic understanding so that you make the correct decision. As far as this course is concerned, I would say that this course looks for candidates, aspirants who are trainable in the financial landscape. They are not looking for people who are extremely refined, because they wouldn't need it, correct? You're already refined. What could course add more to you? They're looking for people who are trainable, who can absorb, and who can apply. But it will be restricted, and more, it's a good thing that you'll be restricted in the financial landscape because it is already so diverse, correct? You'll not be confined to a desk or a job or a bank. There are many avenues that you can go to. But it is important to do your research beforehand. You should know what you're getting into. Even if it's an MBA, engineering, no matter what course you do, you got to have a basic understanding of, this is how my next couple of years would look like if I were to take this course. So while you're enrolling, look at all aspects. Look at the fact that you will be a part of such a phenomenal intellectual community. For starters, if that's what excites you, make a list of things that you want to do, that you think are fit for you, and then you make a decision. Not just because the guy next door or the girl next door is doing it, but you have to identify why and how are you going to do it. The why is very important, I believe. Nihal?
So very well said, Anuja. So yes, it has to be about your calling, and talking about like how if someone is not very really sure about it. So I would suggest the only way to make sure about how interested or how relevant this thing is to you is by reading a lot of it, because once you get exposed to this thing before you decide on to what to, like if you want to pursue this or not, would really help you out, because that is what helped me. Reading newspapers, reading about, actively taking interest in the capital markets, going about it and like understanding. So that is the whole gist of it. But if you look at it as the end result from what you get out of MSc, is that you become a very good managerial person, but who is only oriented towards finance. And it's not like, but your outlook would be limited to finance, but you are an expert in finance, because finance is something that doesn't require like a lot of frameworks. You need to be good with numbers. You need to be like, you need to understand the valuation models. You need to understand how to evaluate a company. So these things you will understand when you come into this course. So if you are some person who is excited about certain things, it is for you. If you are interested in like investment banking or a consulting role, so when you have certain, like everyone has to has a core field or something like the selective elective field that they wish to pursue. So if you have that decided on day one, then I think there is no other better choice than pursuing a master's in finance.
Okay. Let's take a question from Anvay. Question from one of the participants. Nihal, you will have to answer it because this is for somebody who does not have a background in finance. So the question is, VAT GDPI tips for engineer who has zero finance background or knowledge, and ease of adaptability to the new domain once you get into the college. Was it difficult to sort of adapt to the syllabus and the complexities of a completely new subject?
Right. So, Anvay, I think, yeah. So there is two things to preparing for your GD PI. One is you have to have your interest in finance, because if you don't have finance, if you look at financial things and you were like, oh my God, what the hell is this? I'm not interested in this at all. So then there's no chance like you would be interested in it, unless you like put in your efforts, genuine efforts, and then you come about it. But apart from that, I would say the cheat book for being afloat about finances is nothing that you could understand through books. Everything is available online. You could read from newspapers. That is one of the best sources, I would believe. Because once you start reading newspapers, you will be coming across so many terms that you have never seen them before. And that happened with me. I used to go about and just any term that I used to come across, I used to just pick it up. I used to go on Google and search it about, and then get to know, okay, oh, this is what they're meaning. Like when you talk about like stock buyback, or you talk about certain things that is happening in the market, like mergers, and then there are like demergers, basically, like Reliance recently did. They are like demerging their financial arm of their company. So once you start reading about these news, you will find that there are certain jargons, certain words and terms that are being used in the financial world. So then you will come to about it. Okay, then you will start take interest in this thing, and then you'll come to build your background into like finance, and then you will feel like, okay, this is something that I could like be interested in, looking at the valuation, looking at the how mergers and acquisition happen, how to consult from a financial angle, how to help them out. So this you can do. And talking about the ease and adaptability once you come into the course. So I am not sure if everyone know about this or not. So MSc Finance is a very well-designed course. So if someone is aware about CFA, so it's a very similar portion to CFA, level 1 and level 2. So the story behind how MSc Finance came about, it's it's adapted from London School of Economics. So I think our Prime Minister, then Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, he went to London, he visited London, and he went to London School of Economics, and he came about this course, and he realized that there is no other college in India doing such a thing. And when he came back to India, he went to the financial capital of India, which is Mumbai, and he went to the best college in Mumbai, and he asked them to pick it up. So then JBIMS did pick it up, and then we are right now the 10th batch, I believe, who are pursuing this thing. So from that angle, if you look at it, it's a very intensive course. Talking about the first semester, you deal with all the basics, like you deal with the economics, like which people have already done in their bachelor's, but you will be doing it at a higher scale, and you will build your background, like economics, be it accounting, be it financial management, cost accounting. So you get a gist about all the whatever is required to like your resources, your shastra, basically, you build it in your first semester. And then moving into the second semester, you will be getting into all the details, like you go into investment banking, you start with corporate governance, corporate finance, and everything like financial markets. So you just dive right into it. and then you have all the tools that you need to understand everything. And that is how I feel it's very eased in. And I didn't feel like claustrophobic, or you could say like nervous about how I'm going to pursue. I compete with the people who have already done finance.
Nice, nice. Good to know. Let's take a question from Agastya. So will having cleared CFA level 1 add weightage to the profile? So any particular, do you see any tendency where people who have done CFA level 1 have got more preference in terms of selection, or it doesn't really matter?
So yeah, I feel that it does help you out because it gives you a diverse thing that you have. So you have a certain like credibility to your resume right now. But if you're not able to justify it, like if I am a CFA level 1 and I don't know anything about what I have studied about, it was just a thing for me to get like a certification. So then I would say that if you can't sell yourself on the basis of CFA, then there's like it won't add value to it. But definitely, if you have a CFA level 1, it will add value to your resume. And at the end of the day, any kind of course that helps you prove that you have a metal and like passion for finance or something, so then it would actually help. What do you think, Anuja?
What about both of you? So Nihal and Anuja, have you done any certification, any particular courses related to finance apart from the MSc Finance program that you're pursuing?
Well, not as structured as CFA because it is a complete course in itself. But I did make a point to brush up on my basic concepts on financial statements and how to analyze them, ratio analysis, the basic stuff I did cover before sitting for the interview, so that in those 2-hour webinars or free lectures that you get online, that are freely available online, you have a conceptual understanding. So when you sit for the interview or when you are, launched into the course in no time, when you sit in the classrooms, you have a basic understanding of how things are going to roll out. So in terms of certifications, I urge everyone, I really do, to take a basic courses, 2-hour, 3-hour courses, or guided projects on how to make a DCF, try to do it on your own. But it is important to take because it generates curiosity. When you sit with a laptop, you open your Excel, you go through annual reports, have that curiosity to surf through the pages, know the relevant data, how do you structure it, how do you analyze it. Even the basic brush up of the annual report will give you a lot of insight. It makes you aware of a lot of concepts just by that. So in terms of courses, take shorter ones that you can finish like in a day or two or a couple of hours, but do take those. Even if it's not structured, that's okay, but it'll generate curiosity in the subject.
So adding to what Anuja said, yes, definitely you can, like these courses help you show that you are interested. So it's like your supporting role they play in your resume. But I think I didn't do any of these extra courses. What I did was there is a very freely available resource called Varsity. It is from Zerodha. And it gives you understanding about all the financial concepts that are available, like fundamental analysis, technical analysis, options, trading, and everything. So it's a very good resource. I would recommend it definitely to go through Varsity. Apart from that, there are like courses on CFI. This is like a website that offers you financial courses. There are other like, so it's all about like structured, not structured, but it's all about doing live projects. Could be like you could be doing fundamental analysis of a company, you could be doing this DCF. So all these prove that you have like interest in finance, and not just to get into finance this field, but also to prove to the companies that okay, you have certain background in finance and you are able to like you have a lot of knowledge about how things work, and you're actively like taking up it on yourself, not just by the course, but you're also taking it by yourself.
Right. Anuja, so if you can answer the next question. So this is regarding interviews. So should we focus more on finance concepts or recent finance news for the GDPI preparation? A lot of students have already started preparing, but those of you who are going to start will also have a question like this, that should I focus more on learning finance concepts? Maybe let's say, for example, if I go through the basics of capital markets or basics of futures, options, and so on, or should I focus more on the finance affairs and news related to it?
So regarding that, I'll tell you how my day looked like in the time where I was preparing. While you're preparing, you cannot trade one for the other, because you don't know the kind of questions that are going to come in the interview. You don't know the interviewer's agenda of questioning you. You don't know what they are testing. It depends from person to person, interviewer to interviewer. So both are important. You get up in the morning, quickly surf through the newspaper, go to the financial economic section, read the articles, read them thoroughly, have a basic understanding. When I was reading newspapers, I still do. I have a Word document wherein I read an article, I understand it, and I try to draft it in my own words, just a paragraph or so, that you know exactly what you're reading about. It doesn't matter if you remember all the facts and figures, doesn't matter. But if there's a happening, you read an article, you should be able to narrate it in your own words and have a decent, stable opinion on it at max. So that's the way you go about reading newspapers. It's not about mugging up everything. You have a basic understanding, good to go. That's done. In terms of financial concepts, when I say that before the interview, I took up a variety of courses so that you need a refresher. Coming, I was already from the background, so it did help me a bit. It did bolster up my courage that way. But even if you're not, it's important to know basic concepts, because you never know what kind of question the interviewer asks, and it sets you back when you say to the interview that I'll come back to you with it later. It mellows down the tone of the interview. You avoid that situation at all costs if you can. It's not bad if you have to say it, but it's preferable to avoid it. So just because you should not come at a point in the interview where you're absolutely clueless about it, it is important to do both, even basic concepts, and brush through your newspaper. You go through a newspaper, it serves both purpose, but it is advisable that you take up some short courses or do some rigorous reading on the subject. Take up any topic, Google it up, use Wall Street's website, but just read something, read an article, have an understanding about it, write it in your own words, say it in your own words, record it somewhere, but have a basic understanding about it so that when you sit for the interview, you're not blank. And when you're in the course, when you have your first class, you have some inputs to give. So both are advisable in my point of view.
So this year, the process is going to be entirely in person, right? Will there be any online component to the selection process?
As far as our understanding goes, I believe that all processes will be conducted offline at the JBIMS campus.
Okay, all right. We have two questions related to profile, and so I think both the students who have asked these questions have mentioned their entire profile. So there's a question from Prasant and there's a question from Sanket. So CET percentile of 97, CAT of 96, 94, 78 in 10th, and graduation and so on. One has work X, the other does not have work X. So the only thing that I would say to you, both of you, right, is to go and apply. Right? See, there are two ways that can happen from here, right? One is you get a shortlist and you finally get selected also. The other is you don't get a shortlist, right? I would say the important thing is to try, right? Because you never know. You cannot really predict what the relative pool is going to be, what sort of people are applying. So it's always better to send your application and see what happens post that, right? Once you get shortlisted, you're going to have an interview with a panel member who is say an alum of the college or a professor in the college or somebody who has worked in the industry for a very long time. And that interaction will really add something to you, right? So even if for some reason, let's say somebody does not get through this course, right? I mean, you don't get selected, but you reach the interview stage, right? You have that interaction. Even that 15-20 minute interaction and the experience of going through the group exercise and the VAT, that counts for something, right? That is always meaningful. It will give you something that you may not get elsewhere. So that is why I would say, I know that where you're coming from, right? So there's an apprehension that should I apply, should I not apply? Will I get shortlisted, right? And you're thinking about your chances. But the point is you'll not be able to predict that chance. Okay, you don't have all the variables which will help you to arrive at that particular value that, okay, this is my chance of getting through. So we have been getting these questions a lot over the last few days that should I apply, should I not apply? My answer is very simple. You apply and see what happens, right? That's the best case is you get into the institute. So I think bet on that and just send your application. That is how I'm going to look at it. Another question I think I saw in the chat window, I have 999, I have 98.3 on the CET. I don't have any work X. Is it advisable to fill the form? Absolutely, right? I mean, you should definitely submit your application because they are looking at your 10, 12 scores, they're looking at your grad score, they're looking at your extracurricular activities, right? As Anuja, for example, on the panel, she does not have any work experience, but she has her academics in place, she has her extracurriculars in place, and that is something that helped her to get in. So she didn't keep on thinking that should I apply, should I not apply. She just went and applied, and look at where she is right now. Okay, so I would say that keep all these apprehensions aside and just do your application. Okay, there's no point guessing whether I'll get a shortlist or not. So we're nearing towards the end of this session. So Anuja and Nihal, first of all, thanks for taking time out to do this for us on a Saturday. I know that generally you always have sessions on Saturdays. So any last minute tips, advice to people who are considering applying for the program?
Well, thank you for having us here. It was a pleasure. The last advice that I'd give is just go for it. What's the worst that could happen, right? I think as aspirants, we have a lot of contention and internal debate whether to or whether to not. What's the worst could happen is you don't get in. No big deal. You try again next year, you go someplace else. There's always a plan B. But just to take that leap of faith is extremely important. When you are preparing, don't leave any stone unturned. Do not think this will not be asked. This will not be questioned. It will be questioned if it has come into your consciousness. Oh, yeah, it will be questioned. So do not neglect any part of your preparation. As far as your interview answers are considered, once you get a call, everyone is on a level playing field. It doesn't matter what your work experience is. It doesn't matter if you're a 99 or a 97 or a 95. You are in the campus, and the only distinguishing factor therein would be how well do you perform in your IPAs, your in-person assessment. In your interviews, be mindful of what you say. Be extremely attentive, be a good listener, listen to the questions, take a 3-second pause to get your thoughts together. Don't just jump right into it in answering. Take it slow. What's the rush, right? And be extremely mindful and poised about your answers, about how you're interacting with your panelists. Allow them to question you, allow them to put you on the grill. Be grilled. And when you're leaving the room, be polite. There's small things in terms of your body language. Do not be arrogant, do not cut them, just listen to them peacefully. When you're out of the interview, when you're getting up, you see that your chair is misplaced. It could be as simple as putting the chair back in place. But be humble about it. Take the opportunity. Once you're in it, you're in for a ride, and it keeps getting better and better.
Yes, I think Anuja did put really well. And to add to it, just one point would be like, just don't be afraid of things, I would say. And this is your moment. If you have cleared the minimum requirement to apply for it, I think there's no harm in experiencing it. And I think for CET students who have like appeared for CET, you get a chance to experience JDBAT PI here. And what's as sir mentioned, what could you lose out of it? If it's a win-win situation, basically, once you start with the process, you only learn from that day one. You'll upskill yourself from day one. You'll just keep on growing. Like you will find what is your calling, what you feel like is like relevant to you, and it's just a learning about yourself. So I think there's no harm in applying. And yes, that's about it. Thank you so much, sir, for having us.
Thank you. Thanks, Nihal. Thanks, Anuja, once again. For all the students, one last piece of advice is go to JBMS website, right? Go through all the documents which are there related to MSc Finance, go through the activities that happen on campus, and talk to students who are currently pursuing this program to know more about it, right? As Nihal mentioned that this is going to be the 10th batch. And when you have so many alums who are working in the industry, you can see the kind of growth they have had, what they are doing right now versus what they were doing prior to MSc Finance. A lot of students have this question that MMS versus MSc Finance and all those things. But do a lot of your research, right? Talk to people who have done these programs and understand whether one thing will make more sense to you compared to the other one, right? So if you have any queries, you can always reach out to us. Thank you so much for joining, and wish all of you all the best. If you have any questions, you can leave it as a comment on the YouTube video, and we'll try and get back at the earliest. So thanks for joining once again and wish all of you all the best.